Fala, Digens! Sejam muito bem-vindos a mais um episódio aqui do podcast do Digen Radio. E hoje eu tenho o prazer de receber pela primeira vez um convidado repetido. Hoje temos aqui o Teddy. Teddy é o fundador e CEO do Notional Finance, protocolo aí de negociação de yield, que em breve irá estar fazendo seu lançamento na Ethereum Mainnet. Então, vou chamar o Teddy aqui agora e vamos para o show. Hey Teddy, how are you doing? Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to host you here. So, man, most people that are listeners to the show for a while probably know you already. You were like the first guest that we had in this format, like on YouTube. So, man, can you talk just a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Notional V3 and what it is all about?
Yes, I can. Yeah. So I am the co-founder of Notional. I started in crypto 2018. So I've been here, I guess, about 6 years now, which sounds crazy. It sounds like a really long time. It hasn't felt like that. But yeah, I've been here for about 6 years. I started my career in crypto as I was a crypto trader. So I worked for a family office trading crypto, and this was back, like when there's the 2017 ICO boom, and like I got a job working with these guys to just trade crypto assets and do sort of cross exchange arbitrage and make markets for their customers, so people that they had relationships with who wanted to buy and sell crypto. So that was my job. And I worked there for about 18 months. So basically I rode the entire downtrend of the bear market at that family office. And I left in the end of 2019, which was basically like the absolute bottom or right
Max Payne.
Yeah. So they got out of crypto completely. Right. So they got out of crypto and basically we parted ways because there's nothing more for me to do there. And at the end of 2019, I was sort of in this, I had to make a decision whether I wanted to stay in crypto or go back to my old industry, which is I used to work in TradFi at a bank. And so at that time, like I knew for sure that I wanted to stay in crypto. I really like it here. And at that time, DeFi was just sort of like very early and just starting to work. I think back then, I think Compound had like maybe $100 million in assets, maybe, and that was like amazing. Like everyone was just like, oh my God, this thing actually, things like.
I remember when like DeFi pools, when we broke like $1 billion, DeFi TVL, people went crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And just, think about that now, it's like a draft market. And so I thought that was really cool. And, I was like, okay, I think DeFi has a future and I would love to build, some part of that. Right. And so at the time, I was thinking about what I could do and what would come next in DeFi. And so what I thought was kind of the natural next step would be fixed rates. So I thought that, we had variable rates with Compound and DYDX and Maker. And I thought that the ability to lend and borrow at fixed rates would be kind of a natural next step. And so I started Notional with my co-founder, and that was the original idea. We were just going to be a fixed rate lending and borrowing protocol in DeFi. And so we started Notional in January of 2020 and launched Notional V2 in November of 2021. And that was the idea. It was fixed rate lending and borrowing, right? That was like all we did. And basically we found out over the course of 2022 and 2023 that there just wasn't actually that much demand for fixed rate borrowing. And basically, like, the reason for that is most of the people, at least at that time and still today, when you borrow in crypto, like when you're borrowing USDC versus ETH or wrapped Bitcoin, usually you are using that USDC to buy more crypto or like go ape into some degen yield farm. You know, you're doing something really risky with it usually, right? And so we found that like people didn't really care about fixing their borrow rate to do that. And, you know, some people cared, some people thought it was nice, but like people didn't care enough, right? And so, yeah. So what we did is like over the last few years, what we've been working on are introducing the concept of leveraged yield strategies into Notional. So we still have fixed rates. You can still borrow at a fixed rate, lend at a fixed rate. But what we've like the big thing that we've worked on over the last few years that's actually started to go really well is leveraged yield strategies. Briefly, what that is a user can deposit tokens into a leveraged vault on Notional, right? So let's say, you know, you have 100 USDC, you can deposit 100 USDC into a leveraged vault on Notional. That vault will then borrow 500 USDC from Notional, and then it'll take the 600 total USDC and use it in a DeFi yield strategy. So like we can put the USDC into a balancer LP pool, stake the LP tokens on Aura, and harvest the incentives, right? So you, on your 100 USDC, you are getting like leveraged yield exposure to that strategy, right? So you're borrowing from Notional and using all that cash to like go earn more yield somewhere else in DeFi. So that's like what we've built, and you know that's like a core part of Notional V3, and we've had a lot of success with that. So we recently launched Notional V3 on Arbitrum about 4 months ago, and like we've seen a lot of traction and growth, and you know people doing these leverage yield strategies, and then we're launching Notional V3 on Mainnet on Monday, March 25th. So we're super excited about that.
All right. That's a great overview. All right, you guys launched it on Arbitrum November, right?
Yes.
And yeah, back in the day when you built the Notional, and the leverage vault started with V2, right?
We had like one proof of concept leveraged vault. So like leveraged vaults were a very new concept at the time. We were like the first person to do this, and we built like a proof of concept that we launched in January of 2023. This was like a vault that borrowed ETH from Notional, deployed into the ETH wrap staked ETH balancer pool, staked the LP tokens on Aura, and harvested the incentives. And basically that leverage vault did really well. So it got a lot of traction, but the problem was that because it was such like an early version, it didn't scale. So it was very hard for us to add additional strategies. So, you know, that experience showed us that like people wanted the product, but like we built it in a way that we couldn't just like.
They needed more, right? Like,
yeah. So we had to like, you know, change, you know, update how we did it to make it sort of more practical going forward, where we can, you know, like today we can just launch leverage vaults on basically any balancer or curve pool. And it's all, we've gotten it down so we can like do this quite quickly. And that was really like very important to like help us actually scale and like, and make a real business out of it. Because the problem was that like, you know, you launch a leverage vault based on one pool, but then something changes and all of a sudden that pool isn't getting that great yield anymore, or balancer needs to migrate to another pool, and then all of a sudden your contract can't handle a migration, and it's just like you know,
it brings a lot of hurdles, right? To like to the product in general. All right. So why did I ask that? Because like back in the day, that yield, like the meta and last cycle was like all about yield farming and stuff. People really liked the yield when they first like got into tape it into in DeFi. And like since like I think like since like mid to last to the second semester of like last year, people started to go all in like farming airdrops and farming points and stuff. And like, do you think the yield products are getting a little bit like less demand now because of the all the point farming that's happening?
Yes and no. I mean, so I know, like, I know what you mean. I understand what you're getting at. I think that all the point stuff is definitely like super hot right now. Like people love airdrops. People, you know, points give you airdrops, and it's incredibly hot. But that doesn't mean that like there isn't still interest to just earn yield. You know, like there's a lot of interest to do that, and that's never going to go away. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically, I think it's still there. Although you're definitely right that like points, like you know, we have gotten a lot of interest from our users to basically launch leveraged points farming projects. I don't know what you is points farming the right way to say it, but like
I think it is like when you see like projects like Pendo and Gearbox that are the main place to do it right now. They go like Pendo go like goes for point trading and Gearbox goes for leverage points. So yeah, I think leverage points trading it is a
yeah
it is a yeah it is.
yeah.
So yeah,
I'll call it leverage points farming. So like
yeah.
we are, yes. So like we're definitely doing that. And that's gonna come like within 1 to 2 weeks once we launch V3. So it'll be pretty quick.
That's nice. And so you guys, I asked about the yield, but you guys on Arbitrum are hitting like new highs on fees and revenues accrued, and so that's very like nice to see. And how do you think like will this grow after you guys deploy on mainnet? Because like a lot of activity came back to mainnet. Like there's a lot of like liquidity is back, and a lot of like DJs are like more capitalized and like trying like leverage stuff on mainnet. So how will this like how big of an unlock will this be for like liquidity and fees and revenue for Notional?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So I would say that you know, I think mainnet is going to be a huge unlock for us, and like a lot of the reason is because all these new like the new meta, like all this point stuff, it's all happening on mainnet, at least for now, right? And so you know, having V3 live on mainnet and having these leverage vaults live on mainnet will allow us to like really get into like the heart of like what's hot and like offer our leverage products there. And like I think, you know, I don't know for sure, but I think there's going to be a lot of demand to do that. And like, you know, I think our products are going to be a great way to get exposure to this trend. So yeah, and you know, so I think there's going to be a lot of demand. You know, we'll see, but I am very optimistic. And you know, if there is a lot of demand, that's going to translate to like revenues for Notional. You know, because Notional earns money as basically we charge on borrowing, just like any other lending protocol. So if you're doing one of these leverage points opportunities and you're cranking up the leverage, you're paying a fee when you borrow. So like the more leverage we can get on Notional, the more debt, the higher the fees. So it's definitely very good for the protocol.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Like, since we talked at East Denver, like I'm very like looking forward to try like to leverage points farming on Notional. And so, how many pools are you gonna we're gonna be live like on day one at mainnet? Do you have it already? Do you have the number?
Yeah. So basically, so here's roughly the way we're going to roll this out. So we're going to launch V3 on Monday, March 25th, and on Monday, incentives are going to go live for the currencies that you can deposit on Notional. So we are incentivizing you to deposit USDC, USDT, ETH, and RETH. So we are emitting our native token, incentivizing deposits in those four currencies. We also have other currencies you can deposit and use as collateral and lend, but currently we're incentivizing those four. So on day one, that will be live, and the plan is to attract deposits in the first day or two, and then immediately after that, start turning on these leverage strategies. So the first strategy we're going to turn on is a stablecoin strategy. Now that is you're going to be able to borrow. So it's going to be a USDC leverage strategy, and borrow USDC from Notional, deposit into the Go USDC USDT pool on Aura, and currently that pool is yielding like 30%. So the total APY on that leverage strategy is going to be like really good. And we're currently talking with Aave and their sort of like liquidity partner about offering direct incentives to leverage vault users on Notional for that pool, which would make it even better, right? So yeah. So that's gonna be good. Yeah, just to start.
Yeah, it would be like a huge like a flow of liquidity to Notional, right? Oh, that's nice. And so like the next question was going to be about the points farming in LRTs, and like you said, you gave like a brief like about like you planning to integrate that in 2 weeks after mainnet launch, or also like probably first week of April, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of stuff is happening on mainnet, but we can see like some stuff like circuits. I don't know a lot about it, but I know they're doing some stuff on Arbitrum, and there's some stuff on Mode too. It's a new like L2. So your main goal right now after like mainnet deployment is integration with our T's on mainnet, and then move out to the layer twos, right?
First of all, we have immediate plans to offer like leverage points, leveraged LRTs, those strategies on mainnet. That's going to happen quite soon. So we're currently looking at Renzo protocol. So we're going to offer strategies based on Renzo protocol, Easy ETH, and EtherFi wrapped ETH, right? So both of those strategies, you'll be able to get the LRT points and the eigenlayer points and the yield based off of the Aura pools where they have their tokens, right? So those are going to be great. And then when it comes to L2s, I think so Notional is already on Arbitrum, and I think that both EtherFi and Renzo, and I'm not sure on this, but I think they're both like pushing to build liquidity for their tokens on Arbitrum in addition to mainnet. And so we'll be able to run those same strategies on Arbitrum once they start sort of like focusing their points and incentives on Arbitrum instead of mainnet. So like we're going to run it back on Arbitrum because we're already there. And then it's like, okay, other L2s, yeah, we can do that. I think we'd probably be looking at a deployment on Base, Optimism. I think like the next L2 we deploy on is going to be, we haven't really figured that out, honestly. I mean, there's a lot that
makes sense.
You think Base?
Yeah, I think Base makes sense because like a lot of decent stuff is happening there. Like they're having like their own like echo chamber, like meme coin season, like all the crazy stuff is happening in Solana, and like a little less crazy is happening like on Base. Yeah. So I think like Base like has everything to become like a degen chain, like Base and Blast. I think they
Blast,
both, right? Yeah, Blast. I think like there's I'm not using it a lot, so but I've seen people say projects are like rugging and getting hacked, and so it's like
Yeah.
too crazy right now. But Base, I think, would be a great place because like a lot of Gigians are interested in Base. So
Why is that? Just like, so, because I've seen like on my Twitter timeline, people talking about base, but it doesn't, like, why? I guess I don't understand, like, what's driving the energy.
dude, I think people like are like forecasting that like a bunch of retail players will come through Coinbase, through to Base, and like I think people with like 100 million like active 100 million users
Mm,
and all of that, and like I think people's like projecting that like Base, well, Coinbase would like funnel these people to go to Base when they want to go on chain, and
right.
I think that's why I think like that everybody's like predicting like to be like BS Western BSC from
Mm,
last cycle. I
right.
heard a lot of people talking about it. I think it kind of makes sense, but yeah, I think Base is like we're gonna be like a huge place like for DJing and stuff.
Yeah,
Probably,
I get that. I get that. So, like, I guess people are thinking, like, okay, you're going to get all these like retail newbie crypto like users onto base, and they're going to be wanting to trade meme. So you're probably getting all the crypto natives going over there and like
yeah.
getting ready to, like, because they think it'll be easy to make money if there's all
I
these newbies on chain.
Yeah, I think it is something like that. Like this, and like because there will be like so many people and so much money to Coinbase, like will have like incentives to run this money to Base instead of other chains. So yeah, I think like for Coinbase, it's already free for you to withdraw with USDC to Base.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like it's like they're running a similar playbook to what Binance did. Like every time you're gonna withdraw a token that has liquidity there, first like
Right.
yeah,
First
the first
option is
chain,
the base. Yeah.
yeah, the default is like Base, and Binance was BNB, and these like they grew a lot like doing that. So yeah, Base is gonna be like probably a place that you, in my opinion, like as a DGen, I think you guys should look at like very
I think we
strong.
will.
Yeah, I
We
think you
will.
guys should look there. It's gonna be like a it's probably gonna be a fun place, like a fun place to DJing around. And yeah. So Teddy, like I wanna ask a question about like Notional and its competitors right now.
Mhm.
And like when I just if I look at Notional in hindsight and I don't know a lot about Notional, I'm gonna look at it and say it's like kind of a competitor to Pendle just because of the yield trading, like
Mhm.
if I can say like that. And I look into the but you guys are not like direct competitors, right? And
Yeah, no, we're definitely not. I mean, I think it's
yeah,
like some people, I can see people think about it like that because I think a lot of the reason people think about it like that is because we both have fixed like
yeah,
interest rate
yeah,
products. But I don't actually see Pendle as like really competitors. To be honest, like we've even considered, and we probably will at some point, we've even considered integrating with them and like doing a leveraged vault where you borrow from Notional, deposit into a Pendle pool, and earn
yeah.
the
I
interest.
was going to ask you exactly about that. I don't remember where I saw it. I think it was a silo that like they had like you can add like a PT EEF pool as collateral and like run some stuff like that. I was going to ask you if you think a little bit about that. And yeah, I think it would be like a nice place to like to do like to leverage stuff. And since Paintball is not a like competitor, I think like as far as I can see, Gearbox is like the main competitors you guys will have in the like point in leverage farming through a lending market, right?
I would say so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think like yeah, I would say Gearbox is more of a competitor than Pendle. Um, I think yeah, I think like we're really focused on this like leveraged yield strategy, leveraged vault market, and so is Gearbox, right? Now there's like some significant differences between us and Gearbox, but I would say that they are probably most like our competitors.
Yeah.
I think, a big difference that we offer is actually like the being able to borrow at a fixed rate to do these leverage strategies is actually a significant advantage. Because it just like, especially on these leveraged yield protocols, the variable borrow rate tends to be really volatile because like there's a ton of demand.
Yeah.
The fixed rate actually really helps in this context.
Yeah, I think the fixed rate's like perfect for like to leverage correlate assets, because like you can like take like very thin like health factor and like still be good.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have like a DPEG or anything, can be good. And so yeah, I think the leverage the fixed rates like better for this. And but yeah, so that's the main difference, right? And like they saw a huge growth after they started the leverage points. I think you guys gonna have some similar stuff going around that. And like when people see like that, I can like take save so I don't know, like 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
The people are gonna look at it and gonna look into Notional and say, oh, here's the place to go. It's cheaper to get leverage. There's another venue to get leverage.
Yeah.
And do you know already like how many X we be able to leverage?
Yeah. So we're so on the stablecoin strategies, actually on kind of all the strategies we're offering, we're basically looking around 10x, right? 10x. So you'll be able to go like 10x, yeah.
10x points and 10x points and 10x eigen points.
Well, actually, for the so it's 10x leverage, but because the balancer pools are 2x points, it's actually 20x points.
Oh, that's
right.
Nice.
So it's like, yeah,
that's nice. So all the leverage will run through the balancer pools, right?
For now.
Yeah.
So this is actually like so this is like, touches another part of what we do. But right now, our leverage points strategies are all like you deposit into the balancer pool. All right. And we're working on dedicated strategies for leveraged restaking. So an interesting thing here is there's actually there's a lot to consider from a risk standpoint with these leverage restaking strategies that kind of like deserves custom code. So this is actually another difference between us and Gearbox, which is like a really like deep technical difference, which it doesn't show up obviously, but like with our structure, we can implement custom liquidation and valuation logic that they can't because their like technical structure is different. And that's actually really important for these leverage restaking strategies because these tokens are actually like pretty risky, and you need to think about worst case scenarios. So when we think about these leverage restaking strategies, we're thinking about like, okay, what is the worst case scenario here? So if you're borrowing ETH, converting into a liquid restaking token, what could go wrong with this trade? So a lot of it depends on like how much exposure you have. So if there's $50 million of on-chain liquidity for ETH versus easy ETH, and Notional has borrowed $5 million of ETH and has bought $5 million of easy ETH, we're basically fine, right? Because like the amount of easy ETH that we have is pretty small relative to on-chain liquidity. But if you really want to scale up and you want to like have it be that like Notional's borrowed $200 million of ETH and is long $200 million of easy ETH, and there's only $50 million of on-chain liquidity, like then you get it. You're taking a lot of risk, right? And you need to be sure that like you've thought through all the bad things that could happen, like that could make easy ETH depeg. What happens when it does? How does your system respond to that? And like, how do you like protect yourself? This is like the other part of what we do, which is really important, is like thinking about risk.
So like as you were explaining, something like clicked into my mind. So if something like that happens, and like you have like 4x more like easy than the liquidity, the on-chain liquidity. So if it depegs, like if it can depegs like a lot from it, do you guys accrue like bad debts for like it's like impermanent bad debts, something like that, right? Can you arbitrage it, or like you need other players to arbitrage it?
Right. So this is the thing, right? So basically the way we think about, and I've had it on my to-do list to write a blog post about this, because actually I think it's an interesting topic. But the way we think about these leverage restaking tokens, all the ETH is staked ETH within EigenLayer, right? So you really have two risks, right? If you just remove the concept of market prices, so like you just pretend that it doesn't trade at all, and you just think about the actual ETH held by the LRTs. So there's slashing risk within EigenLayer. So there's like, okay, you could get slashed just in regular ETH staking, and also in the restaking, like any sort of restaking services that you sign up to, you could get potentially slashed, right? So there's the slashing risk. And then what is actually, I think, a bigger risk. So right now, there's basically no AVSs. So there isn't any slashing risk, right? Because like, there's nobody that actually wants to.
It's just testnet, right? Yeah. Mainnet, I think, is going to go live like next month. So there we're going to see.
We'll see, but like my understanding, having talked with people in this space, is like there isn't really any real AVS demand immediately. Like eventually there will be, but like for the rest of the year, probably not. Or like not like a huge amount, right? Relative to the amount of ETH staked. So there's slashing risk, but I think that's minimal for now. And then the other risk is that you can't withdraw because everyone's unstaking at the same time. So if you recall, when they first opened withdrawals, there was like a mad rush to stake your ETH, and the entry queue went from like 0 days to like 60 days, right? You had to be stuck in the entry queue for like 60 days before you could actually stake your ETH. So the same thing could happen in reverse, where if everybody unstakes at the same time, then it's actually going to be like 60, 100, 150 days until you get your ETH back, right? And you think about that, like that is a big risk, because like if I'm borrowing ETH over here and I'm using it to earn yield over here, but then I'm stuck in the exit queue for 150 days, like I'm accruing interest on my debt over here, and I'm not earning anything on my like ETH yield over here because it's stuck in the exit queue. And then it's like, what happens over that 150 days? You have to make sure that your protocol remains solvent and that you don't liquidate at a bad price and crystallize like bad debt. So it's like, it's actually like quite
it's very complex. It's very complex.
Yeah. And I think that something that I believe helps set Notional apart is that we like do the diligence and think through all this stuff, and like that is really important for people to feel comfortable depositing on Notional, like knowing that we aren't just like degen YOLOing, like and really thinking through the risks of what we're doing. So that's something that I think is really important.
All right, that like gives like a very good overview, and like it's some stuff like people don't talk about it, like users, DJs don't talk about it until like this the first problem happens. Like
Yeah.
it'd be like the first like the liquidation because of DPEG, the first like slashing event happens, or
Hmm.
like this, yeah, some when something bad happens, people start to go into the risks. So it's like a very important to hear it from you, for guys that there's building on top of it, so we can like evaluate our like as users our risks. So that's like very like nice to hear. And yeah, about like the EVS as a slashing risk is like it's good to know that we won't have a lot of like slashing risks for a while.
Yeah.
We won't have like most of the slashing risks for a while, because yeah, like we're playing in the digital leveraging DeFi.
Mhm.
So yeah. Oh, Teddy, like before we wrap it up, I wanted like to ask like two more questions to you. Um, One is like how like do you think like this like after we get like all these our LRTs and eigen airdrops, like how do you think like this leverage plays on like apart from you, there's leverage products will progress? How do you think like we're gonna have like new LRT projects coming? Like I don't see that, since I see like I can see something similar to what happened to LSTs, like Lido, Hughes, and Rocket Pool came and stayed there, and like Ethereum and Swell came as like a liquid staking, and then they pivot to restaking. And so, do you think like we're gonna have like a similar model, like a similar competitive landscape on LRTs and LSTs?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think probably it will be like it'll be a little different. Like it's not going to be totally different, but it'll be a little different because um, so LSTs, like liquid staking tokens, they're basically fungible. Like
Yeah.
there's no difference really in what the actual staking ETH does. But with liquid restaking tokens, there's more of a difference because they make decisions about like which slashings,
AVS.
which AVSs to sign up to, right? So like, there's more scope for them to be different. So that probably makes some difference in how it
Yeah.
plays out. I would say they're also kind of like kind of going off that. There's more like they have more decisions to make.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
like they're kind of more active in how they manage the their stake, whereas like an LSD basically doesn't do anything. They just like
Yeah.
but like these LRTs, like there's more stuff for them to do. So that probably means that like it won't be as winner take all. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Nah. Yeah. I got kind of yeah, I agree with you. And so, all right. And the other question is a little bit more personal. It's before like I asked for the alpha and for like the guests. Do you still trade or like actively use like DeFi right now? But you said you started in crypto as a trader. You came from a TradFi background, and now like you're building like a product like for DeFi pros, as you said like in the last episode. And so nowadays, do you still trade doing some yield arbitraging stuff, actually trading, or just like heads down building and like not like touching these that speculative parts of the markets?
Yeah. So I don't really trade anymore. I guess what I do besides building is like, so I buy crypto in bear markets, and so far I've never sold any crypto. But like I'm hoping to actually be able to sell some this bull market. But like that's really I don't trade day to day or anything like that. I just like I average in like so I was like buying ETH and Sol in 2022 and 2023, and that's like all I did, right? And so that's like on the investing side, I guess. And then in DeFi, I mean, I use Notional basically. It's like all like my like DeFi like stuff is all done on Notional. You know, it's like it's exactly what I want. Like it does all the things that I would want it to do, and I mean, obviously, it's just, I built it, but like that's like what I use. I mean, with when it comes to like other DeFi projects, you know, I look at other stuff to like make sure that I know what's going on and like see what other people are doing. But like when it comes down to it, like you know, Notional, in my opinion, is the best place to like earn like yield on your assets. And I don't really want, you know, like when it comes to investing, I just like I do what I told you, which is I just buy when it's down. Yeah, but like otherwise, like I have like another pool of capital where it's like I just want to earn yield on my assets, and like Notional is the best place to do that. And like, or at least for me. And
a risk return, like it's have a good like risk return ratio, right? Like pretty safe. And so all right, got it. So all right, can you give like as an alpha for like our listeners? It can be anything, like can be like about some behavior that you see like that burns people, some behavior that you see that is good to people, or like some strategy to try, like anything.
Yeah, so I'll give some like Notional V3 launch alpha, right? So
that's even better, actually.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that so on Notional V3 you can borrow at a variable or a fixed rate to do these leverage strategies, right? And so what we have seen is the first wave of people always borrows at a variable rate. And so what happens is the variable rate goes up a lot, but then the fixed rates are always low. And it always takes them like a few days to a few weeks to start borrowing at fixed rates instead of variable rates. But if you're early, you can get like, you'll get the opportunity to lock in a fixed borrow rate at like a really low level if you're early. Because like the rates will start at like 2 or 3%. And so if you're early, you'll be able to lock that in, and then those rates will go up over time, and you'll be sitting pretty.
All right, so my notifications are on for you and for Notional Twitter's page right now.
Yeah.
Dude, I like thanks for coming. I'm very like I'm looking forward to use it Notional for real, to use Notional and at like these like point strategies. And I wanna get to these like 2 or 3% borrow rates. And yeah, I'm like very bullish on you guys and what you guys are building. Like very looking forward to use it like on mainnet. And thanks very much for coming, and like thanks for like sharing a lot of alpha about Notional. It was like great conversation like last time. And yeah, man, thanks very much for coming. And all right, maybe soon next year we can do like the round 3, right?
Yes. All right. That sounds great, man. Thanks. It was a great time. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. And guys, and nothing said here was like financial advice, and everything was for informational purposes, and everything that he said, was his personal views. Right. All right. Thanks,
Correct.
guys. Thanks, Teddy.
All right. Okay.